This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This is Wayne Mitchell, and I'm pleased to begin the conference call this morning. Obviously, we've been doing this. I want to thank you for participating. For those of you that don't know who I am, I'm the president and CEO of the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce. I do want to remind everybody on the call that this call is being recorded, and members of the media have been invited to participate as well. I'd respectfully ask that everyone put your phones and your computers on mute until we get ready for questions. That would be extraordinarily helpful. I want to remind you that the Chamber has a wealth of information located on the Chamber's website at www.nacogdoches.org. Please visit that resource page when you get an opportunity. We've had several businesses let us know that particularly the information provided by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has been extraordinarily helpful when talking to their lenders and their local financial institutions.
Okay.
On Thursday, April 9th at 2 o'clock, the Chamber, the Nacogdoches Economic Development Corporation, and the Small Business Development Center will host a program titled COVID-19 Business Resource Seminar. Yes.
Well, he's from Maine.
Again, it'll be on April 9th at 2 o'clock. It'll be a business resource seminar. This hour-and-a-half program will answer many of the finance questions that you folks have had. In addition, representatives from the local banks will be invited to join us as well to give specific information. Having said that, again, I remind you that this is being recorded, and if you're not a presenter at the time, please keep your phones on mute. I'm pleased to introduce our first presenter here today, and it's Ron. Ron, I'm gonna take a stab at it, but I believe it's
I just go by Ron at the Chamber.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Well,
That's great. Ron, Vice President of Congressional and Public Affairs for U.S. Chamber of Commerce. He's here to provide us with an update. I've read his resume, and Ron is a requested speaker around the country, and very capably handles the enormous amount of lobbyists that represent business interests in the halls of the United States Capitol. So without any further ado, Ron, welcome to the Nacogdoches conference call, and we're anxious to hear what you have to say.
Great, thank you. I know that we have a lot of speakers today, so I want to sort of tee things up to answer the questions that are going to be of most use to you. First of all, I really want to thank you. We're all in this together. Working through these issues is going to be complex. It's going to be tough. There's a lot of questions that are out there. We have the answers to some of them now, but there's some that we're going to have to learn together on. So we look forward to being partners in this. as we have been on so many issues at this time. So thanks again. I think probably the best thing to do is to talk about the PPP and the EIDL at this point. The PPP is the Paycheck Protection Program. The EIDL is the Emergency Injury Disaster Loan Program from SBA. Both of these programs were included in the CARES Act that Congress passed 2.5 weeks ago. Congress was really smart, I think, when they put this package together. It's more than $2 trillion. The goal was to get as much money into the business community, into the private sector, into the U.S. economy to keep the economy rolling. We don't need an economic catastrophe because we have this temporary health crisis. We're going to get through this crisis, and we need the business community to weather this crisis and to rebound from this crisis. The CARES Act had something for everyone, depending upon where you are on the business spectrum. And the two biggest programs for small businesses are the Paycheck Protection Program and the Emergency Injury Disaster Loan Program that I talked about. The PPP program is new. It was created in this law. It's $349 billion, and it's largely run by your banks. I'm excited, Wayne, to hear that you're going to have some bankers on. It'll be interesting to hear what they're talking about. This program has been available for businesses and sole proprietors since last Friday. In that time, more than 17,000 businesses have signed up. The last I saw, and this number I'm sure is old now, is that they've already processed $5 billion worth of loans. And already on the Hill, members of Congress are talking about whether this program is going to be enough and whether they're going to have to work on something bigger. So the Paycheck Protection Program is designed for businesses, mostly small businesses, fewer than 500 employees. What are banks looking for? They're looking for, have you been hurt by this crisis? Do you have a sense of uncertainty due to the COVID pandemic? There's very, very few limits on this loan. I think Congress was also really smart when they kind of got rid of the need for a lot of paperwork, a lot of bureaucracy in terms of trying to get this money out there as quickly as possible. Basically, if the sense of economic uncertainty, if your business is taking a hit, you can take out one of these loans to cover your payroll, to cover your other payroll associated expenses, sick leave, family and medical leave, vacation leave, salary, wages, commission, all of these costs are included in your PPP calculation. And to assess how much of a loan you're able to apply for, the cap is $10 million, and it's based on 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. And like I said, there's a lot of things that go into that payroll cost: salary, wage, commission, tips, family medical leave, group insurance, retirement benefits. All of those associated payroll costs are included and eligible under the Paycheck Protection Program. Really, the great thing about this program is if you take out a loan now, you continue to pay your employees. You use this money to keep those workers either working or ready to work when this crisis has passed. That loan turns into a grant. So if you keep paying your workers through the end of June, the money that you borrow, up to $10 million, becomes a grant that you don't have to repay. Basically, the magic number is 75%. So long as you use 75% of that money to pay payroll costs, you will be able to turn that loan into a grant. Other eligible costs are business eligible costs like your mortgage, your rent, your utilities, things like that. But like I said, 75% used for payroll, the loan turns into a grant. We can get into this a little bit more in questions and answers, but I also want to talk about the EIDL program. The Small Business Administration has had the disaster loan program for a long time. One of the other things that the CARES Act did was put the disaster loan program on steroids to respond to the COVID pandemic. And this is a loan up to $2 million. You apply through the SBA, unlike the Paycheck Protection Program where you go to your traditional bank. Here you're going to have to go through the SBA. The SBA has also eliminated a lot of the bureaucracy. The online form has much less information required than the traditional disaster loan. And one of the key features of the EIDL program is an immediate grant up to $10,000. So if you're in a world of hurt because of coronavirus, you can get a cash infusion of $10,000 really quickly. Like I said, the maximum loan is $2 million. There are no collateral requirements for loans less than $25,000. Above $25,000, the collateral requirements are business assets as opposed to property. And up to $200,000 can be approved without a personal guarantee. So on both of these programs, Congress wanted to flood the small business sector with money to keep small businesses paying their workers in business, ready to do business, ready to succeed and grow after this crisis has passed. Congress wants to get this money out there as quickly as possible. And maybe in questions and answers, we can get into it a little bit more about how all this stuff works and what specifically we can be most helpful on. So Wayne, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Ron. Why don't we take a minute? If anybody has questions of Ron based on what he said, why don't we see if we can field a few? Just unmute your mic and ask the question, please.
We've heard, and I'll start off while waiting for a first question. We've heard some reports that it's been a little bit bumpy on the EIDL side and also on the Paycheck Protection side. On the PPP side, these loans are going to be written by your bank. So if you already have a relationship with your bank, go talk to them first. The EIDL loans have taken a little bit longer than they should. We expect those problems to go away as SBA has really turned on a dime to try and get this program up and running. So hopefully these growing pains are going to be behind us pretty quickly.
Any
So,
questions?
Ron,
Go ahead.
Ron, are the applications finalized? I understand as of middle of last week, they were still being revised, and my banker kept saying, hold off, hold off.
Yes. So for the Paycheck Protection Program, that program went live last Friday. And, you know, as you point out, your banker was saying, hold off, hold off. Department of Treasury, so the program went live last Friday. On Thursday night in the evening, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, Department of Treasury finally got final guidance to the banks. So, you know, Congress, the administration have been working at triple speed to try and get these programs up and running. Treasury was no exception, but your bank should be ready now. One other point on that, this program started out with banks who were already in the SBA system. So banks that were writing 7A loans already were the banks that were qualified. Other banks are coming into the system. Bank of America was the first national bank authorized to do this. A lot of community banks are already out there. They're trying to get credit unions in the system, farm credit system institutions in the system as well. So they're trying to roll out more banks. So if your bank isn't already in the system, hopefully it'll be just a couple more days.
Thank you.
Other questions? If not, Ron, I want to thank you for being a part of this call today. This has been extraordinarily helpful. I also want to acknowledge the unbelievable amount of resources that the United States Chamber of Commerce has provided us. Many of them are on the Nacogdoches Chamber website. I'm going to suggest that you folks visit that site to see those materials. They're extraordinary. And at the same time, I also want to remind you that we will have a more comprehensive call on the CARES program and the payroll protection program and others on Thursday at 2 o'clock this week. And Ron, any final comments?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. Like I said before, we're all in this together. Your website is a great resource. You are a strong voice for the business community there. We need to continue to work through all of this stuff together. We really appreciate everything that you're doing and anything that we can do to continue to help your members, make sure that they stay on their feet, make sure that they can continue to pay their employees and keep it on. We want to do that to help. So we really appreciate it, and we'll be in touch down the road. And one other thing, anything that you can let us know about too, about how well the PPP is working, the EIDL loan is working, problems that you're running into. We want to make sure that we have stories to go back to the folks here in DC to identify problems and solve those problems. So whatever you are experiencing, please let us know.
Well, thank you very much, Ron. We'll certainly do that. And again, thanks to the United States Chamber of Commerce and all the hard work you and your lobbying team is doing on our behalf.
Thanks a lot. See you later.
Great. Well, our next presenters are, we're pleased to have with us Senator Robert Nichols and Representative Travis Clardy to give us kind of a snapshot of Austin and regional updates. Why don't we start with Representative Clardy?
There we go. Had to get my microphone on. Thank you, Wayne. Hey, and I do want to echo what Ron said. You're doing a fantastic job with these meetings and the information. And I want to thank Kelly. I appreciate your emails that you send out with all the links and connections. A lot of very useful information. I think it's been a great resource and service to our community. But as far as the state goes, hopefully all of you have been getting notifications. Governor Abbott has been doing relatively frequent conferences. He's usually accompanied by Dr. Hellerstedt with the Department of Human Services, kind of our health guru in Texas, and also with Nim Kidd, who is the Texas commissioner of the Texas Division of Emergency Management. So they've really been covering the waterfront, kind of just an update, things that have happened. Really no new big news since we had this call last week. But I would say that the good news is we seem to have also we haven't flattened. We're still going up the curve, but it's not at such a dramatic, just straight up line that we saw in Italy, we saw in Spain, and we've seen in New York. So I really do think, and I will tell you just anecdotally, driving around, I sat on the ledge here on the El Camino Real on Main Street and looked down as the cars passed. And a week ago, I could have sat there till doomsday and never seen anybody wearing a mask. I sat there last evening and saw a large number of people, not the majority, but a bunch of people wearing masks. And that's just driving. I'm sure, I went to the post office yesterday, put on the mask, went into our box, got our mail. I think the several things have happened. When people see famous people getting the virus, it has an effect on behavior. I think when it gets closer to home, you can look back at the chamber's numbers from Sunday last. I think at that time we had one reported case in the county. Now we're around 20 reported cases in Nacogdoches County. We've had 2 fatalities attributed to the COVID-19 virus in a week. So I think that is having a real effect on behavior. That's unfortunate, but the good news is it makes all of us take it more seriously. So, the message, I'm tired of hearing it. You're tired of hearing it. Wash your hands, use sanitizer, maintain safe social distance, stay at home, avoid contact. It's working, and that's the good news. And so we're going to continue to lose people. We're going to continue to have people get sick. We're going to stress our healthcare network nationally, but even in rural East Texas. But I continue to believe we're in the best place to handle it in the world. We've got great doctors and nurses and staff. I think everybody is emotionally, we've been ramping up to this moment in time. Our peak is projected to come, last I heard, and the senator can correct me if he's heard something different, but what I'm hearing is that the peak in Texas, and that may not be regionalized to us, is sometime around May 7th is the date that I have heard. I don't know how they can come up with a specific day, but let's just say we're, 2 to 4 weeks out from our peak. So this is going to go on for a while. Everybody's getting tired of it, but now's the time we need just to, everybody hold what you got, keep doing what we're doing, and I think there's a good chance this thing will pass over us, give our healthcare network a chance to catch a breath and work, and come up with a better proven way of treating these problems. I think we're seeing more and more successes. I think we're going to see hopefully a number we'll start to see more frequently than new cases or fatalities will be a recovery list, a recovery rate. And that's something I've talked to the officials state and locally. Let's try to provide that as a hopeful statistic that we can all see. The number of people that have been contracted the virus have either come out of the hospital or are no longer symptomatic and are essentially have built antibodies and are well. So I think that's the line I'm looking forward to seeing grow, and hopefully the infection decrease. But I appreciate what Ron said about the banking issue. I will say, as a selfless or a selfish plug, I'm going to be doing a town hall tomorrow at noon on Facebook with and dealing with the banking issue with local bankers in Cherokee, West, and Nacogdoches counties, and kind of where the rubber hits the road. Here's the problems they're having, and talk about that. Do about a 30-minute program and kind of an update. So. With that, I will yield the remainder of my time, and thank you, Wayne, for the opportunity to speak, and be happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Thank you very much, Representative Clardy. If anybody has a question of Representative Clardy, this would be a good time to ask.
I think I bored them to death.
Well, if not, thank you again, Representative Clardy. Senator Nichols?
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Wayne, for putting these conference calls together. I think it is helpful for everybody. I'm going to go through some of the things we've been working on, some of the things I found out about this week you may or may not be aware of. On the Louisiana border, I think all of y'all heard they were going to start doing, stops and stuff a week ago. Well, they did just cursory type work, but beginning this past Sunday at 8 a.m., they actually have been working with TxDOT. They've been pulling vehicles, cars, pickup trucks with trailers, boats, and things like that over. Not at the bridge on the border, but inland a little bit, first rest stop, some places they've got places to pull over cars. They're pulling over 8 to 10 cars or pickup trucks at a time, finding out where they're going, making them fill out forms. If they're coming in just to visit, they identify where they're going to be, quarantine them, give them some papers, and warn them that if they don't stay quarantined for 14 days, that they can be fined $1,000 a day. So it has ratcheted up quite a bit. Interstate commerce, like 18-wheelers, they let them roll on through. If they are workers working at our Tyson food plants or petrochemical plants along the coast, they let them go to work. So I don't know how long that's going to continue, but I think it's having an impact. What we found out in Louisiana was that they shut down all the parks. Later, they shut down all the marinas and stuff. So a lot of those people poured over, filled up our marinas on the Texas side, and then they started going down to San Diego and places like that. So that's to discourage a lot of that. Second thing, PDCJ, that may not directly impact Nacogdoches County, but just so you know, we've got a lot of prisons in East Texas. We are getting some infections. So far, we have 18 infections in the prisons. 6 of them are in Palestine, so they're quite worried. There's a lot of people in adjacent counties, correctional officers that work in those facilities. So anybody that's been anywhere close to those infected patients, they're isolating, quarantining them. So far, there's 37 correctional officers quarantined in East Texas. They take the temperature of everybody going in the prison system to work, everybody coming out of the prison system to work, going back into the community. In addition, they've screened every inmate that they've got. On the good news side, one of the chemicals or medicines that you hear talked a lot about is hydroxychloroquine. There's a lot of people that think it does help, either the prophylactic or actually as part of the cure, getting people through this. Still a lot of work to be done on that, although there have been a lot of studies in France. The studies are going on right now. There was a run in Texas at the pharmacies on the actual medicine, to the point that the pharmacy board had to kind of shut it down because of the shortages that were fixing to happen. One of the manufacturers of that found out about the Texas shortage, and they had donated 1 million units to the state. We now actually have it in our possession, so that's real good news. And talking to the healthcare providers and people that are face-to-face out there with possible patients, the governor has announced we just picked up 1.6 million new masks or N95 masks. We've got 3.5 million more on the way. Just so that y'all know, twice a week, we have a conference call with Lieutenant Governor Patrick, all 31 of the Senate members. We compare information from around the state with each other, good news, bad news, ideas, to share it, send it back to those different communities. One of the things that we identified early relates to the Texas Workforce Commission. We saw the tsunami wave of shutdowns from restaurants, theaters, and stuff like that a month ago. We contacted the Workforce Commission, our office did, I did myself, to let them know they better get geared up because they're fixing to have a wave of people applying. They did gear up, but not nearly to the extent they needed to. They are weeks and weeks behind, backlogged. So in the Senate, I don't know what they're doing on the House, but in the Senate, we're going to get each of the offices, all 31 offices are going to volunteer different staff. I'm volunteering 4 out of our office, and they're going to be trained Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and beginning Monday, we're going to have a whole new working phone banks, working people through their applications and stuff like that for their unemployment checks. So hopefully they supposedly said they've got a 2 to 3 week backlog. We can help them get caught up. That will have a direct impact to those individual families and to the communities that they work in. That's pretty much all I've got. Does anybody have any questions of me? That's good. All right, thank you for the call.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator Robert Nichols. We really appreciate all that you and Representative Clardy are doing on our behalf, and really taking time out of your busy schedules during this time to join the call. It's really important. Thank you. Would you please welcome with me the President and CEO of the Nacogdoches Economic Development Corporation, Larissa Philpott.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. Larry Kane is going to cover those SBA issues that maybe Ron didn't cover at the beginning. So today I'm going to talk about unemployment. And I apologize, I'm reading on the screen behind me, so it's kind of weird with the camera right here and my notes over here. But the unemployment data that we're seeing, it's shocking, to say the least. The Texas Workforce Commission received more unemployment claims in the last 3 weeks than they did in all of 2019. And there's obvious indicators that those numbers are going to continue to increase. What people who are much smarter than me are debating right now is how long will it last? If you listen to talk radio, you've probably heard this discussion. Is this a recession? Is this a depression? One viewpoint that I do trust very much is Ray Perryman. I know a lot of y'all know him. He's kind of the de facto state economist. In his recent article, I think has been in newspapers across the country, he reminded us that the Great Depression wasn't defined by high unemployment, but a period of high unemployment that lasted a decade. We could very easily come out of this very, very quickly. So let's keep that in mind. Our unemployment numbers are the result of a horrible natural disaster, just like other natural disasters like floods and hurricanes. Our basic economic structure is still there. Our country's taken so many steps to protect the financial markets and to support them. And our legislators have taken historic steps to protect payroll and businesses. So we're going to come out of this. I'm not lessening the horrific nature of the situation and the seriousness of the virus, but attitudes affect the economy. And so when we're able to safely restart the economy, we should be able to rebound quickly. So with that in mind, we need to focus as a community on three important things. The first thing that we need to support the people who are dealing with this virus directly. Tip your delivery drivers. Have some grace for that essential worker who might be a little on edge because they'd have to keep going to work like the world is normal and it's not. Thank your banker for the 15-hour days that they've been putting in, trying to get these SBA loans put together. Ask your neighbor, the healthcare worker, if you can pick up groceries for them while you're on your family's grocery run. And then, of course, thoughts and prayers for all of those who are actually ill. So support for the unemployed workers. That's something else we need to focus on. For the first time ever, I think self-employed people and gig workers are eligible for unemployment. So your process is going to be slightly different for applying for unemployment, but go ahead and apply online. You might initially receive a notice saying that you're ineligible due to monetary reasons. The claim might need more information. The message is to sit tight and pay attention to messages that the Texas Workforce Commission gives you, because they'll send you additional requests for information. Just like a couple of others have said, the system's overwhelmed. They've tried to divide the state up by area code. So for our area code, they're asking you to go online to apply or call between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm entering the web address for the unemployment claims in the chat box. It's ui.texasworkforce.org. And then, oops, I just did that to Sherry. Sherry got that message. Sorry, let me retype that. And then the phone number is 1-800-939-6631. If you do have to lay off your employees, you can actually help the process statewide by filing a mass claim for your employees. So essentially what you're doing is batching those claims all together as one to start the process for everybody. Follow Texas Workforce Commission on Facebook for updates, and you keep hearing me say that about Texas Workforce Commission and the city and the county. If you're not on Facebook, you can still search Facebook plus whatever these accounts are and pull it up online. I say that not to push you onto Facebook, but this is the best place to get this information right now because they're updating it all constantly. One other thing to think about, the federal benefit of unemployment of $600 a week goes into effect April 12th. That is different than the stimulus checks that everyone should be receiving in the mail. This is just an additional unemployment benefit. And then also finally, that leaves our business community. When we're talking about unemployment numbers, it's important to also focus on the health of our businesses. If we can reopen the economy in a few months, we have to have businesses left to reopen. So businesses are making this excruciating decision right now to pay rent or pay employees. And if they maybe have to lay off their employees so that they can reopen and keep that business open, that's really what we want them to do. Someone in a meeting yesterday kind of mentioned that businesses don't know where to go for information. And I apologize if we're not doing a good enough job of that, but I think we are. But just a word of advice. Number one, talk to your banker. Number two and number three, we're tied, Wayne. Go to the chamber and go to NEDCO. Go to our websites. Talk to us directly. My email address is lphilpott@nedco.org. Call us. Our number is 559-1255. I'm going to be honest, I'm not an expert. I'm not a business expert or a banker, but I know a lot of experts. And so I'll get you in touch with the right person. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Larissa. I'm getting emailed some questions. We'll field those in a little later on the agenda here. But I'm pleased to introduce now the Communications Director for the City of Nacogdoches. She's going to talk about emergency preparedness and response. Would you welcome Dr. Amy Mahaffey?
Good morning, everybody. I appreciate you being on this call, and I want to applaud you for being responsible citizens and helping to stay informed. During times like this, we really rely at the city on you and your personal networks to help us distribute accurate information. And so I'm going to kind of give a plug for kind of not a plea for help, but to empower you in being able to share what you hear on this call today with people that you know, because there are looks like 82 people on this call, and that's amazing. But we really want you to go and tell your 82 people about this so we can continue to distribute the correct information. A large majority of what's happening now is we are working on rumor control, and like Larissa just said, helping to tell people where the information is and the correct information. And so with that, I'll kind of start my report, but please don't hesitate to reach out to me at any point to help educate the public in terms of questions that they may have or concerns that they may have, because that is what we are here for. The city and the county have established and activated our emergency operations center, and they are at what we call a level 2, which is high readiness. The incident management team is a joint team between first responders from the city and the county. It also includes both hospitals and representatives from the call center, and of course representatives from both entities. There is a great deal of effort happening behind the scenes to help ensure that we are projecting 7, 14, and 21 days down the road to ensure that we're projecting potential problems, potential supply chain issues, and really looking ahead so that we can be prepared. And so if you've ever been proud of Nacogdoches, now is the time to be especially proud of the people that are here and working for you day and night. This team meets every 48 hours, and we'll continue to ramp that up and continue those operation briefings to ensure that we're helping support our healthcare system. Unlike a natural disaster, this is a healthcare disaster. And so that's kind of not meant to be scary or not meant to cause panic, but it is certainly meant to kind of illustrate the difference between what would be a hurricane or a flood and the way that first responders would respond to that versus the way that we are helping support these hospitals. Your local hospitals are working very hard and have done a tremendous job in ensuring that they're prepared and they've adapted and that they're ready and they're keeping their employees as safe as possible so that they can help keep your family safe. I apologize, we have our official consultant back here trying to assist us. So this is real life, folks. But we are definitely here supporting our healthcare community. The other thing that's taken place is that there's a whole division of what we call the Texas Division of Emergency Management. It's the Texas Interstate Fire Mutual Aid System. It's called TIFMAS. And what their function is to help mobilize resources across the state so that if somebody in a region in the state of Texas needs something that we have or vice versa, that all of these supply chains and all of these needs are met in a way that's supported by the state. And it's a very formal system that helps ensure that Nacogdoches gets what they need and when they need it. And so I would also like to draw your attention to the 2 call centers. From these efforts, we have 2 call centers supported by SFA, XLER, the city, the county, and both of your local hospitals. That call center, I'll put it in the chat when I'm done talking. It's a screening call center. They've taken over 1,000 calls to date. What that's functioned and supposed to do is help screen people who believe they may have COVID-19 and schedule a test at our center. You see on TV, there are testing sites where cars are lined up and people think they have a stuffy nose and they want to go and get tested. And this is functioning in a much more efficient way. And I'm really proud of our local hospitals for setting up this system, and for SFA, we're very thankful for them for helping with that call center, because it is a very efficient way to help ensure that we are efficiently using our personal protective equipment. And so what they do is they'll screen you, and then they schedule a test, and they schedule several tests at once so that they're using personal protective equipment all at one time, and then they're able to get those tests. I've got some numbers here to date. They've done over 1,000 calls. And so our goal is to send people to that call center. There's an influx of calls in the mornings. And so if you hear of somebody who maybe isn't getting through, there's a ton of phone lines, but in the morning people wake up and they go, hey, I think I may need to call in. And so there are a lot of phone lines. There's a lot of volunteer personnel that's helping man this call center, and they are screening those folks and scheduling tests. They've done over 200 tests to date, and they are awaiting over 50 tests. This is only the call center. This is only the what we're calling the tent. And so it's not a big public location because we want people that qualify for the test to come to that location, but this certainly doesn't include testing throughout the community. So the hospitals, private providers, and other people are doing tests, but those are the numbers for the testing center. As you know, we've had 21 confirmed cases in the community, and unfortunately, we've had 2 fatalities. And so these numbers are published every day in a status update on our websites, on the County Emergency Management Facebook page, and on the city's Facebook page. I also have a group of internal community stakeholders that get this via email. So if you'd like to be added to that list, please write your email address in on this chat. I know some folks, they would prefer to get an email with these updates, and we're happy to do that. Part of why we're doing this goes back to what I spoke about at the beginning of my report, which is to empower you to pass that information along so that people have a trusted and credible source for information. The other thing that we have, as you know, is our stay home orders that were enacted. A couple days after Nacogdoches and the county, the city and the county signed their stay home orders, the state did a similar order. So what we have done also is we have a disaster order that is scheduled to quote unquote run out today, but we fully expect and have ready to go a new drafted order to extend that disaster declaration. What that allows is for us to qualify for assistance and FEMA assistance and things like that. And since we are obviously still in the midst of the COVID-19 incident, that will be renewed today. And then we will continue to look to the state order and their stay home orders to continue our social distancing efforts. That being said, there are some questions. There are questions about, is my business essential? Can I do this? We've had questions, crazy stuff. Hey, we closed the county lines and we can't, nobody in and nobody's allowed to come out. And, those are the type of rumors that we want to help control people so that they're not overly concerned. While this is certainly a serious topic and something we want people to pay attention to, this isn't something that we want to cause panic. And so those questions can be directed to a different call center that's manned by city staff. And I will also put that in the chat when we're done with the report. But they are helping answer questions about essential businesses, churches. Churches have begun offering services where you drive up and you stay in your car and you're able to do services in that way. And so we've had questions like that. We've had a very diverse group of questions. And so we're here to help answer those as well. And that's the city call center. So we have a call center for people who may feel ill, and then we have another for people who are trying to navigate the orders. We understand that it's confusing and can be, you may live in a gray area with your business or some activity that you need to conduct. And so we're here to help you navigate that. It's also important to recognize that we've got a huge group of people working with our nonprofit organizations. Anna Middlebrook, who's on this call, and some of our personnel at our fire department have been working closely with a lot of nonprofits in Nacogdoches. As you know, Nacogdoches is a very giving community, and we have a lot of nonprofit organizations who are helping to fill needs. And so what that function is within the emergency operations system is to allow us to make a list of needs for the community and potential needs. Like I said, we're looking forward 7, 14, and 21 days, and then matching potential resources, and also helping to support those nonprofits who may have had an influx of needs in this unprecedented time. And so that is a huge function that we are very proud to have on our emergency management team. The other thing I want to draw your attention to, and I apologize, I'm looking at my notes because I had a lot today for y'all, is a reminder that Nacogdoches is a healthcare hub. So you may hear things about people that are being treated in Nacogdoches that maybe aren't in our count. And so when you get that status card, you may see 21 cases as of today or as of yesterday, but you know that we have 50 pending tests just from the testing center alone. We have other locations that are able to be tested, and so you know that there will be cases coming down in the future. And so what I want to encourage you to think about is the fact that we know the virus is here. And I think a lot of folks that I've spoken to publicly have thought that when we had that first case announced that there is, oh, the virus is here now because we had our first case, and that's certainly not the case. We expect an influx. That's the nature of a pandemic, is that we will have an influx. And so just be proud that you're part of a community that has conference calls like this to help really navigate all of these resources. That being said, there's a lot of questions and a lot of confusion about the how much information we're able to give about patients with confirmed cases. We do not have a local health department, and so we are not getting streamlined information from the state of Texas. So we wait on them to confirm a case. As y'all know, in a small town, you may know somebody who knows somebody that knows somebody that has a confirmed case, and we don't want to get in the middle of that. We want to publish the correct information for the public, and so we wait on the state to confirm cases that we know are going to come down, and from there we publish that information. Sometimes that information is not streamlined. Sometimes we know the age and the gender, sometimes we don't. And so people just have to know that the state obviously has a staffing and an influx of work that they have to do for a lot of communities that are similar to ours that don't have their own health department and their own devoted staff helping navigate this system. My advice to you to help navigate that is pretend like you're infected and pretend like everywhere you go and everyone that you see is infected. That helps you not be afraid and not need to know the information about where a certain person has been. The reason why we encourage social distancing is to keep that from happening and to keep us from having to continue the spread of the virus and to, as you know, flatten that curve. That being said, we also work and lean on the state to conduct what we call contact investigations. So if you have been in direct contact with somebody with a confirmed case, you will know about it because that is their function. And so just try to help stay informed and to help support those efforts in the background that are taking place. I, again, just kind of want to applaud you for taking the time today to tune in and to take notes and to have the right information, because it is vitally important that we continue to support our locals and to continue to educate people. So special thanks to the Chamber and SFA and everybody on the call who's helping support these efforts. And I can take questions in the chat as I get off. I know we're trying to cruise through this agenda, but I'm happy to help answer questions as we continue the call.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that very much. It was a wealth of information. And I do want to let you know we are monitoring, and we will respond to the chats that you folks can submit on the GoToMeeting page. Folks, would you welcome me, the president of Stephen F. Austin State University, Dr. Scott Gordon. Dr. Gordon?
Yes, good morning, everybody. It's great to be part of this group, and Wayne, thank you for holding this session. I've got a meeting with my cabinet at 11, so I'm going to keep this relatively brief. Over the last month, we've essentially been continuously tightening our restrictions on campus. So let me tell you where we are right now. Essentially, we've developed a very robust telecommuting policy where most of our employees are at home, and we're trying to work within the stay home, stay safe orders. And we only have a very few people in key offices that are here at the university so that we can maintain business operations. All of our students are learning via online or other distance education modalities, and therefore campus is pretty dead. And we do have about 45 students who are currently living in 2 different halls on separate floors and in separate wings to maintain social distancing. And they are getting their meals through our dining services. They are students who either are foster children who have aged out of the foster system, or they are homeless, or there's some other serious extenuating circumstance that prevents them from going to a residence. So we're working with those, and our health center and our counseling center are working with them because, again, the isolation is trying on individuals, as we all know. And as far as the campus operations, again, the teaching and learning is still going on. Our operations are still moving, but at a much slower pace because we have only key essential personnel within offices. We are in the process of, we do have locks on all of our buildings now. Every building is secured, although folks with ID cards or keys can get into the buildings, as well as emergency personnel. And each of the doors will have signs indicating if somebody needs access, who to call. And so we're pretty tightened down on campus. We have essentially canceled all activities throughout the summer. So all courses will be online through the summer. Camps, events, performances, we're essentially canceling all of those. We are in the process of giving refunds to students for dining as well as housing and some of the fees. We, as has been talked about earlier, there was, for higher education across the nation, $14 billion in the CARES Act. We hopefully, we know we will be getting some of that. We're working right now with, on the federal level, to figure out the complexities of the CARES Act, especially as it pertains to higher education. But I will tell you that right now, and this is not going into what we're going to be facing for summer, but at this point right now, we're looking at north of $9 million that we will be refunding to students. And then when you calculate with the projected enrollment declines, and I'll talk about those more specifically in a second, as well as the loss of revenue from camps, we're looking at a very significant revenue shortfall. We're looking at a financial impact that we do hope will be lessened a little bit by the CARES Act and any additional federal legislation that comes out. But as far as where enrollment stands, we do look like we're going to be a little bit down for summer. Fall is still early, but there was a nationwide survey done with 1,100 different high schools from across the country that surveyed high school seniors. 1 out of every 4, so 25% of the high school students who were considering attending college this fall are now reconsidering attending college this fall. 69% of the students foresee the COVID-19 issue impacting their financial situation and ability to pay for college. And 87% of higher education administrators are expecting anywhere between a 5 and 10% decline in enrollment. So as this plays out, there are going to be a lot of unknowns. I keep telling the faculty and staff here that we're living in, and this was way before this crisis, we're living in a VUCA environment. VUCA standing for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Well, nobody would have predicted how VUCA this environment is. So we will be working with Robert and Travis and others to see, you know, how we can move forward with this. But it's going to have a tremendous impact across higher education, not just in Texas, but across the nation. We don't know what we don't know. And so we'll just be playing things by ear, hoping for the best and getting ahead of the curve on how we as an institution can be a leader to look at how higher education, the landscape of higher education will be in the future. And so that's something while we are working on mitigating some of the circumstances, some of the immediate circumstances, what we are also doing is planning ahead to figure out where do we need to be ahead of all other institutions. As you know, there was a email sent out of my office yesterday, as well as a press release that we did have our first confirmed COVID-19 case in the university community. It was an employee. We're anticipating that there will be more. There are several tests that are pending, as has been mentioned earlier. There are multiple, well, from what I understand, about 13,000 tests backlogged up in Tyler that are being waited on. So we do have one confirmed test at this point. We are able to still help. We're running with kind of a skeletal crew. We are still able to help. You know, as was mentioned, we're working with the call center out at the DeWitt Nursing Facility. We also are, we have some areas working on providing masks that cover the N95 and other surgical type masks to help prolong the life. We've been working with our friends out at Texas Tech to work with the hospitals to develop some sanitizing methodologies for the N95 masks. And we also are working with the hospitals as well around 3D printing for face shields for the healthcare workers. So we're really proud to be able to help. And, you know, we're working together. We're all going to get through this. It's you know, the thing that I want to kind of get through to folks across campus and elsewhere is when this is over, there's still going to be a long period of time where we're going to be having to climb out of the hole that this issue has dug for us. So that's all, and I might not be able to be online for questions because I have my cabinet meeting in 4 minutes.
Well, thank you, President Gordon. We really appreciate that update. And if there are any questions that are emailed to me, I'll pass those on. But I want you to know that, you know, speaking for the chamber, and I'm confident Nedco and others on this line, if there's anything we can do to advocate for you as you go navigate these difficult waters, we're partners, and we'll look forward to working with you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. He mentioned canceled events. I do want to remind everybody on the call, the Lone Star Legislative Summit, which will take place on the 16th and 17th on the campus of SFA and at the Fredonia Hotel and Convention Center, has been canceled. Would you please welcome with me the director of the Small Business Development Center at Angelina College, Larry Kane. Larry?
Thank you, Wayne. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, since I am an Angelina College employee, I want to pretty much second everything that Dr. Gordon just said about SFA. Angelina College campus is pretty much locked down, and very few people are allowed on campus, and the rest of us are working from home best we can. And all the Angelina Arts upcoming events are all canceled as well, for those of you that are interested in that. On the SBDC side, Ron did a great job of talking about the PPP program and the EIDL loans. I just want to mention a few things that he may not have covered. The EIDL loan, otherwise known as the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, you apply for that directly on the sfa.gov www.safety.gov/disaster website. And every day, it seemed like there for a while things were changing, but now the application process is pretty much the same every day, and my clients and people that are calling are able to navigate the application process pretty easily. There's only a couple of financial questions on the application. One of those is your total revenue for the last 12 months. And then it does ask for your total cost of goods sold for the last 12 months. And some people are thrown for a loop by that. They don't know what that means. If you're in the restaurant business, you know what your cost of goods sold is. If you're a service business, then you would put 0 in that category for cost of goods sold. And a lot of people have had that question. Another thing, part of that application is asking if you want to be considered for the emergency grant that Ron mentioned. I want to be sure and let you know that's up to $10,000. And I believe SBA is calculating that based on the size of your business and how many employees you have. And I think they did say you would have that within 3 days. I believe they've taken that off of the application, I was told this morning, because I don't know of any of my people that have applied a week ago that have received that money yet. So it is taking longer than they thought. But that is your money. Whatever they assign you as that grant is your money to keep, regardless of whether you're offered a loan or whether you accept the loan through the EIDL program or not. Also on the EIDL program, we've determined for sure that 501c3 nonprofits are eligible. 501c6s are eligible. Many small chambers are 501c6. Faith-based organizations are eligible. So if your church is struggling, you can apply through the EIDL program. I helped someone from a volunteer fire department the other day apply. And as you know, those volunteer fire departments are always looking for funds. So this may be a good opportunity for them. I'll move to one other thing that you won't hear probably anywhere else, but if you're on the SBA.gov website to apply for an EIDL loan, make sure that you're on Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge. They're having some issues with people that are trying to apply using the Chrome browser. Nothing against Google, but I've had some clients of mine that have called and couldn't get it to submit using Chrome and had to go back and use Internet Explorer. I'll briefly mention on the PPP program, the local banks seem to be figuring out the process. It takes some time. In their defense, the final rules were not published until last Thursday night, and then the program started Friday morning, and there was no way they could be set up and ready to go. The large banks, I've been told some of them have already stopped accepting applications. I've had some very upset people that had banked with a large bank forever, and then they got their application all ready to go, and they were cut off and could not apply. So any of my banker friends that are on the call, if there's any local banks that are accepting applications from non-customers, I'd really like to know that so we can refer them to you and not an online lender. So I had one client who laid off 84 employees in one day who all worked in nursing homes. And so we're helping her to apply for a PPP loan where she can recall those employees within the 8-week period and use that time for training until they're able to get back into nursing homes. So it is a great program. They're starting to get the bugs worked out of it, and I'll be glad to stay on the call and answer any questions that may come up. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Larry. I do want to, I have received several questions, and what I'm going to do is where I know the source of the questions, I'm going to loop back with several of the presenters and get you an answer at the conclusion of the phone call. Thank you again, Larry, for that. And I want to remind you, Larry will be participating on that COVID-19 call on Thursday at 2 o'clock. We're going to be able to drill into the issues in more detail, finance issues in more detail on that call. So I'd really remind you that it's there. Would you please welcome with me the Executive Director of the Nacogdoches Convention and Visitors Bureau, Sherry Morgan, please. Sherry. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to update y'all on the state of tourism. I wish I had better news, but the tourism forecast is bleak at best. The earliest estimates from the U.S. Travel Association of the start of a recovery is July the 1st, with experts indicating hopes that we will see a relatively strong fourth quarter. To our advantage is the size of our destination, and the type of travel that we see will be among the first to really start ramping up in recovery, because we do have a great balance of business and leisure travelers, and under that leisure tourism is the heritage tourist, which they'll come back. But those destinations that are primarily white collar, pure leisure destinations, those are the ones that will have lost the most in all of this. Their fall to zero is a mighty fall. Our fall to zero, not for nothing, but it's not that far. But that white collar tourism will be one of the last ones to recover. But anyway, in planning for fiscal year 2021, the recommendations are that we are looking at having to cut our current budget by at least 50%. We're funded on 72.5% of the remitted hotel occupancy tax in the city. The Nacogdoches CVB operates very lean, so half of where we are typically is fiscally negligible, but some is better than none, and we are prepared to take it and run with it and do the best that we can until we're doing better financially. Currently, we are researching grant funded, unrelated to the CARES Act. We're looking specifically, or I am looking specifically into grant sources that New Orleans CVB utilized post-Katrina, and some other ones that hopefully we can qualify for to see us through these trying times. The CVB board that governs us here at the Visitor Center is also exploring the best moves going forward in regard to being good stewards of our reserves and how best and wisely to utilize those reserves. As for the day-to-day, what we're doing here, we still have 2 employees working remotely. Mike Bay and I vigilantly are maintaining the fort here. At the Visitor Center, we're working with NGOs and nonprofits to be an informational conduit to the public, as well as partners in community engagement projects, such as handmade mask collection and disbursement, our teddy bear hunt, chalk your walk, responsible social distancing, and a new idea that is, I call it circling the drain in my head, but a rainbow bingo, which will allow us to assign colors of the rainbow to the differing sectors of frontline response service professionals and recognize and celebrate them in the community in some fun way that's yet to be determined. It's shareinating, which anyway, that's possibly a little insight into my current mental state and what we're doing here at the CVB, but we are here to help. If there is something that we are not doing that you think that we could be doing, let me know, and we can certainly get on that. So, right now we have focused our attention on practicing care of our community and to remind people that we bend and not break, and that we are going to get through this, and things might be different. But different isn't always bad. And we're also looking for those moments where we can, in the landscape of COVID-19 and the response, we can find positive opportunities in these times that we can capitalize on and help others capitalize on to explore a different business model that involves online shopping or curbside delivery or any of these different waves that businesses have been able to bend and modify and adapt in response to what's going on. We're here to encourage them to do that, and also to really recognize and celebrate those people that are on the front lines, keeping our grocery stores stocked and safe and clean, that are, sometimes the people that are way, way, way back behind the curtain making these things happen. not to mention, obviously, our outstanding medical healthcare workers that are literally in the line of fire every day doing what they have. But you know, being relatively new here to Nacogdoches, it is really not just commendable. That's not, I don't even know if there is a big enough word. It's inspiring. It is soothing to the heart to see a community that is so small, yet so big in compassion and resolve. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Sherry. Really appreciate all that you are doing, and we understand the challenges your industry is facing in this difficult time. We're, needless to say, all going to try to do our part to minimize these economic impacts. So thank you again. Certainly last but not least, and I promise next week I'll reshuffle the order of presenters next week for everybody. Would you please welcome with me from the Nacogdoches Area United Way, Gary Lee Ashcraft.
Hi, folks. I'll be short, believe it or not. I have a couple of things. We're certainly not making funding asks for the United Way. We're making funding asks for COVID-related things. We're looking at a fund that the United Way was set up that would be a little broader and hopefully bigger to help people like Love Inc., who has 35,000 or had 35,000 in their COVID fund. And at this point, they have run through 15,000 of it. So I want to make the ask that you let people know that have the resources and the heart to push money toward Love Inc., Patty Goodman's group. They are, I'll remind you, taking care of folks' rent, not forever. I wonder about sustainability and all of this, but the rent is, or that payment is geared toward laid off employees who are rehireable. The way that you will be at the hope, Love Inc. will be able to do that is they'll need to hear from the employer that this validated, and then the money is dispersed. So they've had that particular program is getting more notoriety, and it will grow, and we're going to need funding for that. Over at Hope, we're helping other people eat. Within 1 week, they're seeing over a couple of thousand people drive through. They have partnered, I think I've said, with Timber Creek Church. Their volunteers from the church are taking food packages to those who can't get out. That's kind of geared toward the seniors. The senior center, same situation. So we're watching their finances very carefully and trying to see where we can plug in and help them to do better. The Hope had an 80%. They just put out their reports for last month or the last days, and they had an 80% jump in people needing food. So it's a critical need that we're trying to meet through and help with that particular pantry. That's the end of my report. I know we're late, and that's all good. If anybody needs a thing from the United Way or us, call Caroline or myself. Most of you have our numbers, and we'll be glad to try to help you.
Thank you very much, Gary Lee, and thanks to you and all your agencies that are doing so much to help so many. We really appreciate that. I would, let's take it just a couple of minutes here, see if there's any questions that anybody might have. Just unmute your mic and ask the question, please.
I'm seeing Les Linebarger on the screen. How are we doing with NISD and all of that?
Les?
Well, we are doing good. It's obviously special circumstances, just like for all of you.
Thank you, Les. I appreciate that. Listen, we do have questions that were submitted on the chat area. We will direct those questions to folks and get any response to those asking those questions. I do want to remind you this call was recorded today and will be on the chamber website a little later this afternoon in case somebody wants to monitor it that couldn't make the call today. I also want to remind you about the program on Thursday, which will be at 2 o'clock. Again, it'll be another go-to-meeting program, and it'll be a more comprehensive discussion of financing options and loan applications. And lastly, needless to say, I want to thank our participants for being on, that were presenters today, all of them, for their willingness to participate. And certainly those of you that took the time to dial in today. We had over 100 at one point today on the call. So it seems like we grow every week. And with that in mind, please stay safe, everybody. And this will end hopefully sooner rather than later. Thank you very much, folks.